Okay, good morning everyone joining us today. Welcome to our CodeLive session where we are going to be converting Aura components to Lightning Web Components. My name is Aditya. I work as a senior developer evangelist with Salesforce. Today I'm joined by Tarandeep Singh, who works as a demo engineer in Salesforce. Tarandeep, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Sarandip. I'm working as a demo engineer with Salesforce as part of pre-sales team. So I'm a full-time developer working on Salesforce Platform.
Okay, so for those of you wondering, Mustafa is unwell, so he was not able to join our webinar today. All of you, please send him your best wishes and hope he has a speedy recovery. So with that, let's go to our next slide. The forward-looking statement. What this basically says is that please make your purchasing decisions based on what is generally available and not based on what we might say today. With that, these are all of our social handles. You can feel free to tweet us on Salesforce Devs. You can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn as Salesforce Developers. And you can find all of the webinars we have done and many other videos on our YouTube channel that is Salesforce Developers. One important thing is that this webinar is being recorded and we will share the link of this recording with you after this webinar. A few other housekeeping items. Everyone has been muted. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to type it in the questions window of GoToWebinar. You need not wait until the end of the session to do that. As and when you have questions, you can use the questions window. We will try to answer every question, either individually during the Q&A session or through the chat window itself. And if you have any more questions, you can always visit our developer forums. Sometimes you might have issues seeing the slides at once or maybe not hear us properly. In that case, generally quitting the GoToWebinar and rejoining it should help. So today's agenda, it's a CodeLive session. So we are going to write lots of code for the next 1 hour, so stay tuned. So before that, a basic introduction on converting Aura components to Lightning Web Components. So we are going to take a real life scenario, which Tarandeep from his experience with pre-sales and all of his demos is going to come up with. So we are going to take a look at what he has done in Aura, and we are going to try and convert it into Lightning Web Components. So before we do that, we are only going to be sharing a lot of code. So before that, I just quickly want to show you how things map from Aura to Lightning Web Components. So typically when you talk about converting Aura components, it's not necessarily a line-by-line conversion, which means you don't just find and replace stuff and say that you have converted Aura to Lightning Web Components. So the folder structure is slightly different, and also there are simpler ways in which you can do the same thing in Lightning Web Components. We are going to cover all of that today. But before that, the basic thing when you do during conversion is mapping the folder structure of Aura to the folder structure of Lightning Web Components. So in here, if you see, the component in Aura is mapped to the HTML file in Lightning Web Components. And the controller, helper, and renderer, all of these three are JavaScript files in Aura, which are mapped to a single JavaScript file in Lightning Web Components. So you don't have three different files, you just have one file, which does the functionality of controller, helper, and renderer. The style, which is a CSS file, is directly mapped to a CSS file. No great change over there. Same is the case with SVG. It is a direct mapping from SVG to SVG. But when it comes to the design and bundle version settings, where you give design properties or maybe define the version of your component, both of those are going to go into the meta file of a Lightning Web Component. So this is how the basic mapping happens, and documentation is not currently available for custom web components. We are going to get that soon, maybe. Again, forward looking. So for now, this is the conversion pattern, and we are going to do this over the course of the next 1 hour. So quickly, I want to ask you, Tarandeep, now can you show us what is the Aura component that you have built, and we can take it from there.
Sure, Aditya. So I'll give you the use case. One of the customer asked was to have an order capture component in Lightning, and the use case is customers are calling them over the phone and they want to buy something from the company. So they need a component where they can view all the products in the org, they can add them to the cart, and they can just check out for that customer. Also, if you see, we can just select who the customer is, what's the account. what's the order start date and the status. The good thing is this component also have a search functionality which allows agent to quickly search uh, the products with the names that you want to. And once you add them to the cart, you can select the customer, just start date and the status, and you can check out and create orders for the customers. If you ask me how I build this, I have created two different Lightning components. One is for showcasing the products, one is for the cart. For the products, I'm using a Lightning based component for the input field where the user is typing the search filter. And then we have a list using Aura iteration. I'm showing all the products on the UI with the add to cart button. On the right hand side, I have another component, which is a cart component. In this component, I am using record edit form, which allows me to capture details from the customer related to order. And below that, we have a list, again, or iteration to show all the products that user has added to the cart. And on click of checkout, I'm actually creating an order in the Salesforce. Now you must be thinking how both of these components are interacting. So for this, I have used application event from which I'm sending all the details that is being captured from the products component, sending it to the cart component. Now the customer know that LW is live, so they want to see how this can be built on LWC, and that's where I need help.
Okay, that's cool. It's a really good demo. Okay, so my first question to you is, how did you build these components?
This one? Oh, so this one I built using the developer console.
Okay. And are you using any version control system for this?
Oh, no, not at this time.
Okay, so one change that is going to be here, the way you develop things. So we are transitioning from an org-based development into a source code-based development, that is a version control-based development. So we are no longer going to implement things on a browser.
Okay.
The development is no longer happening in a browser. It's going to happen in VS Code.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so VS Code is going to have an extension pack for Salesforce, which supports a whole lot of things, which I'll show you.
Right.
Okay, that's the first thing that we need to do. So because we are going to be working on VS Code and we are going to be using the Salesforce CLI in order to create the web components and to deploy the web components.
Okay.
The first step you need to do is actually create a project in your VS Code and pull all the code from your org. I'm going to show you how to do that. Just go fire up VS Code.
Sure.
And press Ctrl+Shift+P or Command+Shift+P and SFDX create project. So this is going to create a basic project. Give it whatever name that you want. Okay, and select a folder where you want to store this.
Yes, I'm done with this.
Okay, so now the next step we need to do is we need to authorize your org. So now you set up a local project, but you need to connect this to a Salesforce instance. For that, again, press Command+Shift+P and say authorize org. SFDX authorize. Ctrl+Shift+P.
All right, I'm logging to the org where I have developed the Aura components.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so now you've successfully authorized this, and let's set it as a default org for this. Okay, so now you've created a project, you've authenticated to a Salesforce instance, and you have set it as a default instance for this project. So every time you deploy, you need not specify which org you have to deploy because this is a default one. All the deployments, all the retrievals go through this org.
All right.
Now the next step is to fetch all the components that you have created. So for this, you can use the cloud icon on the left-hand side, something that looks like a Salesforce icon. So that is called the org browser. So that is going to actually fetch all the components from the org. It's going to show you what all are created in the org, and you can retrieve means of that cloud and download icon that comes after every.
Sure. I'll download the classes and Aura components, right?
Yeah, you download the classes, you download the Aura components.
Sure, I'll do that.
I also see that you have shown the output to me in a tab.
Yes.
Which means you would have created a flexi page for that.
Right. Yes. I'll download that also. I also created a new flexi page where I can place my Lightning Web Components. So
Okay.
I'll download that also.
Right. And finally, I also see that you have a static resource. There is an image that you're showing in the cart.
Yeah. Yes, I've downloaded my Apex, Aura Components, flexi pages, and static resources.
Okay, so let's wait for this download to complete. So now that you've, this is all that you need to set up your VS Code with an org. And now that this is done, you can get started by creating your new Lightning Web component. So for that, first I'm going to have to take a look at what is the Aura component that you built. You've shown it to me in the demo, which is good, but I want to look at the code.
Sure. So the first Aura component that I've built is product catalog.
Okay.
So that is the component which you have seen on the left-hand side, which shows the list along with the search functionality.
All right.
In this, I'm using a Lightning card as a wrapper, and in that I have a Lightning input, which is a base component to allow user to search. And I have another on key up feature, which allows me to call a controller function and execute a query on my database.
Okay.
Also, if you see at the top, I'm using init function, which is basically executing a query using my Apex class to retrieve all the products in the system. I'll show you that also, how I've written that. If I go to controller, init, I'm calling helper function, which first parameter is component, other is blank. And get products is basically calling the Apex class with a where clause as blank in this scenario in the init function, and it retrieves all the products and set it as an Aura attribute. So this is Aura attribute which gets populated with all the products.
Okay.
And then I also mentioned I'm also using application event to transfer the product to the cart. For this, I have registered this component to send platform events. I mentioned about the
application events, you mean?
I'm sorry, application events. So then I also mentioned about the Lightning input. And then for showcasing all the products, I'm using Aura iteration. This is a list of products. And then I'm using SLDS to populate data on the UI. Then I also showed there's a button which add the record to the cart. This is a button on click of which I'm calling a controller function, which creates a wrapper object with all the information captured for the products and send it to the application event for the other component to listen.
Okay, so this is cool. We can get started with creating the Lightning Web component, but before that, I want to help you do this. So let's live share, and you can send me the link so that I can control your system.
Sure. All right, I'll send you the invite link.
Okay. So by the time I get set up, you can start creating a Lightning Web component. So for that, you need to press again Command-Shift-P, which opens up the command palette, and create a Lightning Web component. Now give the Lightning Web component a name, maybe LWC product catalog. This is good. Yes, select the directory, and that's it. So now if you see in the Explorer, you will see that it has created 3 files. One is the HTML, one JavaScript, and one JS meta XML.
Right.
So if you remember from my presentation, you will know that you'll have to map things between these components and Aura.
Right.
Okay, so let's jump back to the Aura component. I'm going to briefly tell you what is to be done. So the first thing, I see that you have implemented a lot of interfaces.
Right.
So why is that?
So the intention was to have this functionality available in community, on record pages, on home, all the places. So that's the intention of having all the interfaces.
Okay. So these interfaces are something that is specific to Aura.
Right.
When it comes to Lightning Web Components, you put all of this in the meta file.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you how to do that.
Sure.
So that is the first thing. The next one is all the Aura attributes that you have are mapped to something called as a JavaScript property.
Right.
Okay. So you're not going to have these attributes at the template level. You're going to create these as properties on the JavaScript file.
Okay.
Your event handlers and all are also going to go to the JavaScript file itself.
All right.
And when it comes to your base Lightning components, most of the base Lightning components are available in Lightning Web Components as well. So there is a detailed documentation you can go through. I say most, not all. So that is why you have to go to the documentation.
Oh, all right.
The way the Lightning base components differ is here it is Lightning : card, but in Lightning Web Components it's going to be Lightning - card. So that's a very subtle difference.
Okay.
All the remaining parameters and everything is going to remain the same.
Right.
And finally, when it comes to data binding, so here I see in line number 8 that you are calling the handle key up, which is a function. But in the case of line number 17, v.products, it is a property or a attribute. So the data binding happens similarly in Lightning Web Components as well, but the difference being you will not have double quotes. You will not have the exclamation mark inside the merge field. So it's just going to be open and close curly braces and whatever is the property that you want to bind. So it can either be a property or a function. So you can either just say products, or you can say handle key up, and inside your JavaScript file that can either be a property or a function. So that is up to you.
Okay.
So with that, let's quickly start converting it. Sure. So like I mentioned, the first thing, copy the HTML from here, the line number 6, the Lightning card, until the Lightning input.
Sure.
And you can paste it in the HTML file. So here, close the tags. Of course, we copied half of it. So that is one of the way in which you'll take a look, right? So I mentioned earlier that it is not a line-by-line conversion that you do. You actually look at what is the functionality that you're trying to achieve in Aura.
Okay.
You try to replicate the similar functionality, reuse most of your code, obviously, but see if there are chances for improvement.
Right.
Okay, so here first you can replace Lightning : card with Lightning - card. So that should solve that. And next, when it comes to Lightning input, again, the same thing, Lightning : input is replaced with Lightning - input. And what you see in line number 10 is a self-closing tag. So in Lightning Web Components, you don't self-close base Lightning components, you actually close it explicitly.
Oh, okay. You mean to say like this?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And the next one I see that you've done is you've defined an on key up on the div, which is not really a good thing to do because the base Lightning component itself has an on change that you can write.
Right.
So why don't you do that? And while you're doing that, Aura ID is something that you've defined. So in Lightning Web Components, you need not have an Aura ID.
Okay.
You can uniquely identify this input with the name. So it's fine. You can remove Aura ID and define an on change. And how did I say that you bind things to the JavaScript?
No inverted commas, no colon.
Yeah, just give open and close braces.
Right.
And then
function
handle key up. Yes. No C dot, no B dot.
Right.
We'll keep it very simple.
Should I remove this?
Yeah, you can remove the whole div also. Div, line number 4, you can remove it.
All right.
All right. So this should do it. So your JavaScript file is set. No, your HTML file is set. Sorry. Now next, let's go to the JS.
Okay.
Okay, in JS, now the first thing I mentioned is your attributes are going to get converted as JavaScript properties.
Right.
So you can copy the name of this attribute and create a property with that name. So inside the class, just say products and that's it. So that is how you define a property and it's automatically bound. So the next functionality that you have in your product component is you are handling a key up function, which means you are storing the search key somewhere.
Right.
That is, you are binding the search key to some, you're doing something with the search key in the JavaScript file, right? So let's define a variable for that or a property in that in your JavaScript file, search key, where initially you said it's going to be empty, right?
Right.
Instead of passing empty to the help function, just define it as empty. Now, the reason I made you do this is we are going to refactor your code a little bit.
Okay.
So in case of Lightning Web Components, it is very easy for you to make call out to Apex and have it respond to your key interactions.
Okay.
So for that, let's go to the recipes. So recipes is a way in which you can look at how things are implemented in Lightning Web Components. And let's go to Apex tab. And in particular, I'm going to show you how it works. So the recipe of Apex wire method with params. So this is a similar functionality that you have done where there is a list that is shown and then you're going to type in something and then the list is going to respond to that.
Yes, exactly the same, right?
Correct. So we are going to replicate the same thing. I know the source code, we need not really look at it now, but the way it works, let's go back to your source code. And one thing here, before we jump in further, this is the basic Lightning Web Component structure that got created. So if you want to use something from Salesforce, so anything apart from this is imported as a module.
All right.
So modules is an ECMAScript standard, and anything other than this, whatever you want to use, has to be imported. So in this case, you're going to be making a call out to an Apex method that you have written.
Okay.
Good thing about Lightning Web Components is you need not make any changes to your Apex methods. They're going to work just the way they are with Aura.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do, look at the import statement in line number 1. So very similarly, we are going to be importing your Apex method as well.
All right.
So for that, just type in import and give the importer name, whatever it is.
Get products.
Okay, and then from, so here in order to import from Salesforce, you'll be mentioning @Salesforce, and a lot of suggestions are going to be shown to you, which is a VS Code feature, wherein you've already downloaded your Apex classes.
Right.
So it's going to retrieve whatever methods that you want to capture. So here it is auto suggesting that maybe for get products, you can directly use Apex/product controller.
Yeah,
Just
this
do
is
that.
a function which I've created for.
Yeah, you do that, and that's done. Now the next step is to actually invoke this method that you have imported.
Okay.
So invoking this method happens with the use of a wire decorator. So you'll have to just mention @wire. You can start typing it in. So you can mention @wire, and it takes in 2 parameters. One is whatever user method or module name that you want to invoke. In this case, it is get products. Terminology wise, it is called as an adapter, by the way.
Okay.
And the next one is you can pass in any parameters that this method can accept. So in order to know what parameters Apex method is accepting, you need not really go to your Apex class. You can just hover over this function, and it's going to show you in case you need to pass any params. In here, it's showing you that you need to pass the where clause. So let's just pass that as an object. So yeah, where clause : and you can give the search key as a parameter because that is the one that is being used. Now, it's a good thing that you've written this line on top of products. Now you've written it correctly. I mean, intentionally or unintentionally. So what you have written, what it does is it invokes get products,
right,
and whatever is the result from get products is put into the products property.
Correct.
So whatever is the property name that you defined after the wire, it's going to assign it to that.
Okay.
So this is just these 2 lines are needed to invoke your Apex method as opposed to 20 odd lines that you have written in your helper class. Now let's define the handle key change.
All right.
So in HTML, I see that you've defined the handle key change,
yes,
right? On the handle key up. Yeah, you can create this function in JavaScript now. And you can actually write it down, whatever is the handle key up event. So handle key up is going to obviously have event as a parameter.
Right.
So you're now going to get whatever is the event.target.value. So you're going to get the value from the controller, right? So for that, you're going to do it as an event.target.value. But before that, I'll actually quickly add some enhancements to your code. Okay, so if you give me like 1 second.
Sure.
Let me do that.
Till the time I can go through the code.
Yes. So what I've done here is you've implemented an on key up, which is good. But the problem with that is whenever your user types quickly.
Right.
So let's say I'm searching for something. I type in 4 or 5 letters quickly. 4 or 5 requests go to the Apex,
right,
which is not really needed because the user is typing it. We have to wait for the user to finish typing his sentence or word. So that is what we are doing with this simple logic, which is called the debouncing logic.
Okay.
Okay, in which we are going to wait for 300 milliseconds after the user finished typing and then update the value of the search key. So that's a simple logic. It's available in recipes. You can go through it at a different time, but this is how it works.
All right.
So with this, you're done with your basic logic, but every time a search key changes, you are calling your helper function to re-invoke Apex.
Yes.
But how do you re-invoke wire here? Okay, so for that, there is 1 letter or 1 symbol that you need to type. So in the parameter search key, just put in $.
Before this?
Yes. So what this says is it makes search key dynamic or reactive.
Okay.
What it does is the moment the search key value changes from the front end. So you type something in the front end, it gets updated in the JavaScript property here. So the moment that change happens, the $ symbol indicates that the wire should get automatically re-invoked.
Right.
So now you're always keep going to get updated values into your products property.
Got it.
So with that, I think you're done with the JavaScript file. Just save it.
Sure.
And let's go to the HTML file now. So in the HTML file, we are done with the input. And can you go back to your Aura component?
Yeah.
So here you have an Aura iteration, and
Yes.
you have some logic that shows the list of products. So we are going to do the same thing. Obviously, you need to iterate over values in order for it to work. So the equivalent of Aura iteration in Lightning Web Component is template for each.
Okay.
So template is a tag, just like your standard template tag, and for each is a directive.
Okay.
Okay. So now just type it in your HTML file. Yeah, after the div. Yeah, before the div. Yeah, template, and then as an attribute you can do for colon each. So for colon each is going to take in a list of values. So how do you bind a property to the front end?
I think similar way how we did own change, without any inverted
yes,
commas.
without any double quotes.
Sure.
Just
And should we
brackets, and
bind
then
this product?
yes, you'll be binding products.
Okay.
And then you have to have an iterable variable.
Right.
For that, it is for item.
Item.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is the iterable variable for that. So this is how you're going to define that. And for item is not bound. It is a local thing, so no need of curly braces.
Right.
So with this statement, you're able to iterate. But it is not a simple products on which you're going to iterate. So if you go back to your JavaScript file, you're wiring all the results to something called as products.
Right.
But wire is going to do much more than that. So products, you've defined it as a property, but the moment you wire it, what happens is products gets converted to an object, and wire is going to add two properties to it. One is called .data and one is .error. So once you get your results back from the apex method, it's going to add it to the data. In case there is an error retrieving it, it is going to add the error to the .error. So that's automatically going to happen. Okay. So in HTML, you're only going to use products.data. And you can straight away copy paste all of your code from the component inside this because it accepts HTML and all of that.
Okay.
Which is good, but you have to make some changes here. One is the obvious underline that it is showing UI : output currency.
Do we have any corresponding base component for in LWC?
Yes, so there is not literally a UI hyphen output currency, but there is something that is equivalent, which I'm going to show it to you. It is actually called Lightning formatted number. Okay. It also takes in it supports numbers, it supports currency, and it supports a whole lot of things.
All right.
So I'm just going to replace that for you. Actually, I'm going to paste it on top. You can replace it. So this is, you see what I've pasted, Lightning formatted number. So that is how you do it. And obviously value is bound to the same thing that you've defined. Like I said, no exclamation marks, no double quotes.
Right.
Right. So you can remove UI output currency. Yes, and of course specify like price over here. Okay, that is done. And the next one I see is that the href on top in line number 18.
Right.
So you're actually trying to redirect the user to the product detail page using the URL format. So typically you don't use URL formats like this because URL format might keep changing and your code might break. Okay. So you use this by declaring some events. We are going to talk about that. For now, just remove it. And I also see that in line number 18, you've put in the exclamation mark. Feel free to remove that. So those are some changes you need to keep in mind. And for button especially, I see that there are a lot of data bindings that you have done. So I think it will take time for you to change it. So let me quickly do that for you.
Okay.
So now I have changed it for you. And what else? Why is it showing a lot of errors?
Showing some error.
Yeah, the reason is whatever code that you write inside template for each, the parent tag, in this case it is the UL, it needs to have an attribute called as key.
Okay.
Now the reason for key is whenever you are iterating over multiple set of values, if one of those values changes, Salesforce doesn't re-render the whole list. It only re-renders the element that has changed.
Oh,
So to
okay.
identify which element to re-render, you're going to have to specify the key. So just declare a key and bind it to any unique identifier. In this case, maybe product.id
ID
or
is
whatever it
unique
is
for
that you
me.
want. Okay, I think this looks good. Now you might want to save this file.
Sure. Is it deploying at the same time?
No, actually, that's a good question. Ideally, you would want to deploy these files, but recently VS Code has come up with a new feature which is deploy on save.
Okay.
So to enable that, you need to go to code and preferences settings.
Okay.
And actually search in for deploy on save. Okay, it is enabled for your user. Navigate to the workspace. It is not enabled for the workspace. Do that and just close the settings. So now if you just press Control S, it's going to deploy the whole component bundle to the org.
Wow.
So you need not worry about forgetting to deploy these changes. Now, finally, we are going to make one change. That is, I told you you have implemented a lot of interfaces and there is an equivalent for that in Lightning Web Components. So for that, you have to navigate to the meta XML.
Okay.
And this is the place where you define your design properties, where you define where the component is exposed to. And also, if you want to put any restrictions on which objects you can drag and drop it, you can do that.
Okay.
So in our use case, we only want to show it in an app page.
Right.
Or maybe the recording homepage. For that, the first thing you do is change is exposed to true.
Okay.
And then you're going to define the targets so that you can actually go through the documentation and get it, where there are multiple targets for multiple places where you can add your code. So just copy what this code snippet here says is that it is available on the app page, homepage, and record page. So with this, it should be done. Just quickly save it. And while it is getting deployed, maybe go to the org and add it to the new tab that you said you created for LWC.
Yes, this one I'm using for the Lightning Web Components. Great. Yes, I can see the component LWC project catalog.
Yes, drag and drop that. And there you go.
Wow.
It's already working.
This looks similar to how it is in Aura.
Yeah, and do you want to quickly search to see if the functionality is working fine?
Sure.
Yes, it's working the way it is intended to. Okay, now I'm going to quickly make a change. Why don't you go to your product HTML to see what changes I'm making?
Okay.
So here inside the template, you have defined all of this code, which makes my product catalog a little bit lengthy and a little bit messy as well. So what I'm going to do is have to ask you to create a child component for this.
Okay.
So just create a new Lightning Web component and call it LWC product tile. And just save it. And yeah, let's open the product tile. And here you can paste all of the code from your HTML. Which I can do it as well, yes. So I'm going to take all of your code and into the child component I've placed. I haven't changed anything. It's just that I took the code from one place and put it into the other. And here I have product.id, right? So here it is bound to some JavaScript property.
Correct.
I haven't created that property yet. So quickly, let's go to the JS file and create that property. So you call it product. Now you have defined a child component and all the properties are bound, of course, but now how do you embed a child component into the parent component? So you can go to LWC product catalog. And here, the way you embed a child component is by using the kebab case.
Okay.
Okay, so you start by typing in C hyphen. You can still you can type C hyphen and it is going to show you, actually you start a tag. If it doesn't show, it is still fine. Yeah, C hyphen LWC hyphen product tile. So that is the general syntax in which you embed a child component, where kebab case, what it really means is from the camel case, you pick all the capital letters and wherever there's a capital letter, you split it with a hyphen.
Okay.
Okay, so that is the kebab case.
This looks similar to how we do C colon the component name.
Correct,
in Aura.
correct. But it is not C colon directly the component name. There is some transformation that you have to do.
Okay.
And now the next thing is you'll have to define the key here. So you remember how I was telling about the key?
Right.
but now that we have moved the UL tag into a different file, this also needs a key.
Sure. The same key, right?
Yeah, it is the same key.
Done.
Okay. Now the next thing you need to do is pass the product information from the parent to child.
Yes.
How do you typically do it in Aura?
So we create Aura attributes and we just call them from the child component.
Correct. So I mentioned that attribute translates to a property in JavaScript.
Right.
But not all properties are public. So by default, when you create a property in the JavaScript file, it is private to that file. You cannot access that outside of your file, which means you cannot set its property from the parent.
Okay.
Now to do that, you'll have to decorate it. So let's go to the JS file and decorate this with API.
API.
Yes. So @API means you are decorating this. So now this product is available as a public attribute that you can use. So just like in Aura, you can declare the attribute here, product, and bind it to product. And that's it. Let's quickly save it. Now this is how, I mean, this was not really necessary. I mean, the code was still working even without that, but some of the best practices that we are using in here. So finally, this is going to work. We are going to test it a bit later. Sure. Yeah, if you want, you can do it right now.
Just curious to see how it looks like.
Yeah, it's just the same. It's just the way it is handled is different.
Sure.
Now the next functionality is add to cart. I see. And you're saying you have used an application event.
Right.
But in the case of Lightning Web Components, there is no application event per se.
Okay.
So we replace that with something called as a pub/sub mechanism, where it's called a publish subscribe model.
Okay.
So for that, there is a recipe which you can look at. So go back to the recipes and you can go to the pub/sub tab. So this tab is going to show you different components on how pub/sub works, where pub/sub search bar is going to fire an event whenever you search, and pub/sub contact list, as you see, it is a different component. So events are being sent to that.
Okay.
Okay, now the code is available in pub/sub search bar. You can view the source on pub/sub search bar. And let's jump right into the JavaScript file. So this is going to show you a lot of code. Not a lot, actually, it's just one line. Okay, we are going to now use this. So why don't you copy the two import statements on line 8 and 9?
Sure.
And paste it into your tile component, because now we have moved the button to a tile. You're no longer working on the product catalog.
Correct.
So just paste in these two import statements. So what this does is it imports a current page reference from the navigation. I'm going to tell you why. And there is a module called pub/sub, which is a custom module that is being built. I already added it to your org when we were talking about this. So it's going to be available to you. Don't worry. Okay. And we are importing the fire event.
Okay.
From the pub/sub module. So like I said, everything in Lightning Web Components is a module. Now, how do you fire an event? So go back to the recipes. And if you look at line number 15, that is the one line that you need in order to fire an event.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so just paste that line here somewhere. But now we need to call this when the button is clicked.
Yes.
So in the HTML, can you look at what is the handler that you defined?
Add to cart.
Okay, create that handler. Okay, and you're firing it. Okay, that is good. But how are you sending it in the application event? Can you show me in your Aura JavaScript file?
Sure.
So you said you were creating a wrapper or something.
Right. So from the UI, I'm actually setting up all the data set values. Okay. And in the controller, I'm retrieving all the information first, creating a product wrapper object. Okay. And sending to the application event.
Okay. Okay. So here I see that you are getting the target, that is the button which is clicked.
Right.
And you're getting the data set items.
Yes.
Which is you have defined as the data attributes on the button.
Yes.
It's not really needed, because what you're trying to do here is store the values in the front end and use the front end logic as a mechanism for communicating.
Right.
But in our case, we don't really need that, because it's a lot of work to send data to the front end and get it back. Okay, so all you're going to need is the product wrapper that you're going to pass to the application event. Just paste that into your product tile.js. Okay, so now that you've defined this, how are you going to get the values of record ID and product price? Till now you were using a data set.
Right.
But what you'll notice is you already have the product property here,
Yes.
which is holding all the details of the product. So you can access whatever are the details directly from the product without you having to do a lot of work by sending it from the front end and back end. So let me quickly replace that logic for you.
This looks simple.
Yeah, so here what I'm doing is I'm getting it from the product where I'm saying this dot product and whatever are the attributes that you've used previously, instead of getting it from the data, I'm getting it from the product property. So this is very simple. You need not worry too much on where my data is available.
Okay. Yeah.
And finally, in the fire event, you'll see it takes in 3 parameters. So the first one is page reference, which indicates from where the event is getting fired.
Okay.
We are using the page reference because we want to know from which page reference it is going. We could ideally use the URL, but like I mentioned earlier, URL formats keep changing.
Right.
So to prevent your code from getting broken because of that, we use page reference. And right now, page reference is not defined. So if you go back to the recipes, there is one more line which says wire current page reference. So that is also the line that you can just simply copy and paste, which is going to get the page reference, and it is set. The wire is not imported in the statement, so you can also import wire over there, which is good. Now, the first property set. The second property is search key change. But what is the event that you're trying to fire?
Add to cart?
Yeah, just name the event. It can be any name that you want. So just remember what name you've given. Sure. And finally, what is the value that you're trying to send?
The wrapper object.
Yes, just paste in the wrapper object over there. And that's it.
I think I don't need this event.
You don't need the event anymore because you're not reliant on the button that fired the event.
Correct. So I can remove.
You can remove the event. So this code is good. But one more thing, if you go to your HTML, I previously asked you to remove the href from A.
Yes.
And I told you that you shouldn't be using URLs and all of that.
Right.
So we are again going to be using a JavaScript function for that. So on click, why don't you bind a handler for that?
Sure.
On click, maybe navigate to detail. Okay, so for navigation, you can just create this function, navigate to detail, and yes. Now here, in order to navigate, there is a bunch of code that you need to write.
Okay.
But good thing is you don't need to remember that. Just type in lwc-navigate nav. So here, a lot of suggestions are showing up on where you want to navigate. In this case, you want to navigate to a record page.
Right.
So just select that. And what this does, it writes the entire code snippet for you.
Right.
So this is another feature in the VS Code and the extensions where you don't have to remember all of this or jump to the documentation to get this code. You can right away use it. And let me quickly replace that for you with the actual values. So what I'm doing here is we want to go to the view page, and the record ID, ideally you would want to get it from the URL or wherever. But again, like I mentioned, you already have the product property available here. You don't need to fetch it from the URL,
right.
Directly get it from the product. And a few other changes that you need to make to the code is that all of this is available, by the way, from the recipes. You can always take a look. Okay, if you jump back to the top, I have actually replaced the extents. Previously, it was just lightning element. Right. Now it is extends, navigation, mixin, lightning element. And navigation mixin is another thing that I would want to import.
Yes.
So this is how you write your navigation. I know I have changed some code and you might find it new at first, but all of this is present in the recipes. If you go to the relevant recipe, all of this is copy pasted. I haven't remembered any of this. So with that, you fired the application event and you can save this component. Okay, so now, did we miss out anything? We have exposed the cart. I mean, we've exposed the product wrapper. We are firing the application event. We've handled your navigation. I think your search component is done.
Yes, search component looks good.
Okay, now the next job is to actually build the cart component.
Right.
So the cart component, do you mind showing me the Aura code for that quickly?
Sure. So I'll just close all these tabs.
Yeah. We don't want VS Code to be messy, so just close it.
Yeah. So the cart component which I've created is not having any init function.
Okay.
And it's again available to all the pages, all the implements are there, interfaces are there. and there's attribute cart items which stores all the items that you have added to the cart.
Okay.
And there's a handler to listen to the application events, so that whenever there's add to cart clicked, this function gets executed, and which stores the data to this attribute.
Okay.
I'll show you the controller. What I'm doing is, as I get the product, I just create as a JSON wrapper, add them to a list, and update our attribute.
Okay, that's a lot of code to just update an aura attribute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then for the actually using a lightning card, under that I have a aura if, because if there's no data in the card, I am actually showcasing image, empty cart image, and if there's a data, I'm actually showing all the list of data along with the record edit form.
Okay.
Here I'm using the base component for allowing user to create orders, where I'm asking user to enter account, the date, the status, as well as the price book. But price book is a hidden field which is being set from the own load of this edit form, which I'll talk about.
Okay.
I don't want user to input, it's just for the use of the data.
All
and
right.
On the record edit form, I have two functions, on load and on success. On load, what I'm doing is actually I'm populating these two fields, status and price book to ID, so that user don't have to enter them manually.
Okay.
And once the order gets created, I'm actually calling this on success order creation. I'll talk about that also. And under that, I have aura iteration, where I'm iterating all the items in the cart and showcasing on the UI for the user to verify. And also I have a button on click of which I can delete the record from the cart. And below that I have a submit button, which is a part of the record edit form, which submits the record and creates order. And I just mentioned, once the orders get created, this function get executed, which gives me the ID of the record, the order ID, and we also already have the cart icons with us. So I'm just sending this all to the Apex class to create order items.
Okay, so basically, as I understand it, so quickly let's go to your output.
Sure.
So you're saying that I'm going to add elements to the cart here.
Right.
So where this is the lightning record edit form, you
Yes.
have exposed in 3 fields, and the 4th field is hidden.
Hidden.
This is the aura iteration where you're showing elements that have been added.
Right.
And these are going to come in from the application event.
Application event, right.
And on click of checkout, since this is a lightning record edit form, the order is going to get created.
Right.
And on success, you're going to have the order ID available. So you're going to pass the order ID and these list of items to your Apex method, which I'm assuming is going to create order items.
Order items for us, right.
Okay, so this is good. Fairly easily, you can replace all of this with Lightning Web Component code as well. So quickly, let's get started. Create a new Lightning Web Component, maybe LWC cart.
Sure. Yes, I've created a Lightning Web Component.
Okay, so now the next thing you need to do, I mean the first thing actually, is expose this to the app builder. So how have you done that in the previous
Firstly,
component?
I have to expose it, right?
Yeah, true. And then?
And you also mentioned I have to add tags to make it available in the home page and record pages.
Yes. So yeah, that is done. Let's get it out of the way for now. And now the first thing that your component was doing is actually listening for the application event that you fired.
Right.
Okay, so let's do that. And actually, okay, now that you're here, I see that there is an aura attribute. What do you do with that aura attribute?
We create a variable in our JavaScript.
Okay, let's do that.
All right.
It's actually called a property, by the way. It's not just a variable. Okay.
Okay.
Now it's a list. So you might want to initialize it.
Sure.
In JavaScript, list is an array, so good thing you initialize it to an array. So that's done. And the next one is your handler function, right? That is listening to the application event.
Yes.
So now I mentioned that we are using PubSub for Lightning Web Components. And quickly, let's go back to the recipes. And let's look at PubSub contact list, which was actually listening to the event. We might have to copy paste code from this thing now. So again, go back to the JavaScript file. And here you'll see again a bunch of import statements. Line number 8 is the page reference, which you have previously imported. Let's do that. And the next one is again from the pub sub module, you're importing two more. Other than fire event, you're also importing register listener and unregistered listeners.
Right.
So this is what you need to call in order to register to listen to an application event or a pub sub event in this case. In this, we don't really need the fire event because we are not firing any events from this code. Remove that. Okay. So now how do you do it? So in init is when you actually register for events, right? So or a handler, you're writing an init function. But what is the equivalent of init inside Lightning Web Components? So it is called connected callback. Right. So connected callback is very similar to how your init gets called. Okay. So the moment your Lightning Web Component is added to the DOM, the connected callback function is going to get invoked. So if you go back to the recipe, you'll see that a connected callback is defined in line number 20, which is registering the listener. So yeah, paste that. And also disconnected callback is there after that. So you're registering to listen, but what if your component is no longer there? You have to unregister it. Right. So which is why disconnected callback gets called whenever your component is disconnected from the DOM. So you're doing this. And here you have to register for the event. The first thing is the event name to which you're registering.
I did add to cart, right?
Yeah, add to cart. And the next one is obviously a handle key change. So yeah, that is good. I don't think you need page reference over here. Line number 2, the import statement is not really needed.
Okay.
Let's just remove that. Okay. Now this says there is an event handler called handle search key change. You want to create that handler?
Sure.
Or maybe rename it for better use. That is in our case, it is add to cart handler maybe. Okay. So these are some naming conventions. If you follow, it's easier for you to maintain the code. So yeah, create a function which says add to cart handler. And you're going to get data because we are passing data from the event. You're going to get data. And what are you going to do with this data? You're going to update your cart items.
Yes, I've add to the list.
Yeah, so you can just do cart items dot push of data. So push is a syntax you use to add elements to the array. So yeah, it's a very simple syntax. So that is done. It's out of the way. Anything else that you want to do here? Nothing else, right?
Yeah, I think this looks good. We got the items and add it to the cart.
Yeah, but there is one thing. So right now you initialize your cart items to blank. Right. So the moment you bind this, it's going to be blank.
Yes.
But when the application event gets executed or the pub sub gets executed, you're adding new elements to the array.
Right.
But how are you going to re-render the UI after the new element has been added? Right. So for that, you need to decorate cart items with @track. So track is going to make your property reactive, which means whenever cart items changes, your UI is automatically going to get refreshed.
Okay.
So just write in @track and the relevant import from the import statement, which is done. So now we are good until some point with our JS file. Quickly navigate to the HTML. Right now it is blank. Let's go to your Aura component and see what you've done there. You've written a card, recorded it form. All right. Let's do until Aura if. Recorded it form will come to a bit later. Okay, paste that and
closing tags.
Yes, closing tags, lightning card. Okay. So the first thing, lightning card, you have to change it to the equivalent lightning base component, lightning web component base component.
Hyphen card, right?
Yes. Now, what did I say the equivalent of Aura if was in lightning web components? I didn't say, right?
Yeah, we haven't discussed that.
Correct. So it is template if true. So there is a directive for each that you have learned. Very similarly, there is if true. So you just say template if colon true. And here is where you're going to give whatever is the statement. So in here, yeah, you can just use that and remove Aura if. We don't really need that now. The merge field doesn't need to have exclamation mark.
Yes.
Now, even now it is giving an error. Now the reason is you cannot really perform operations inside the data binding. So data is supposed to be bound to an expression, not an evaluation. So things cannot be evaluated in the template. Any evaluation has to happen in the backend, that is the JavaScript file, and a Boolean value has to come into the front end. In this case, it's not really a Boolean value. You're trying to evaluate something.
Yes.
This evaluation, move it to the backend, and typically the way you move it is by using a getter function.
Okay.
Okay. So for that, I can actually write that getter function for you. Okay, we are in the cart.js. So just observe line number 6. I'm pasting the code there. So this is how you write a getter function. You just say get and is cart empty, just like any other function.
Right.
And you're going to return a Boolean value. In this case, if the cart length is 0, then you're returning true. If
Right.
not, it is false. So now you can use this is cart empty in your front end.
Oh, okay.
So replace all of that with just is cart empty and you're done. Now that is if true. Similarly, you have if false.
Yes.
So put in that as well, because here I see that there are two functions. If the cart is empty, you're showing an image. If not, you're showing a lightning record edit form.
Yes, yes.
So let's quickly do an if false. Okay. Now, if the cart is empty, you're showing an image.
Yes.
Right. So you can just write an image tag.
I'll copy it from here.
Yeah, you can copy it from there.
I can directly call resource, right?
Yeah, that is the thing. Like I mentioned, everything is imported as a module.
Okay.
So including your static resources, those are imported as modules and bound to the front end. Okay, so instead of writing resource.empty cart, maybe just declare a property called empty cart. No exclamation mark as usual.
Yes.
So yeah, empty cart is the name of the property, empty cart URL. Okay, good. Now define this property in your JavaScript file. Yes, now you have to assign some static resource to this. So for that, you'll have to import the static resource. Again, just type in import and give the import a name, maybe empty cart, whatever it is that you want, from @Salesforce/. So now you see again there are suggestions. This time we'll look at /resource URL/empty cart. So this is actually the static resource that we downloaded previously from the org browser. So that is why it is available as a suggestion. You can just assign the imported value to your property. So you can make empty cart URL is equal to empty cart, and that's it.
Oh, nice. Now this is being used on the UI. Oh,
yeah, that is being used on the UI. So that is as simple as that. So now we are done with the basic stuff. Quickly, you also might want to add lightning record form.
Sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, now if you see here, lightning record edit form is a base component. So there is an equivalent base component with all of the hyphens and all. It might be difficult for you to change all of that. So just go to the documentation and fetch the code.
Sure. Record edit form. Yes, I can see that.
Yep, paste in the code. Okay, inside your if false, yeah, if the cart is not empty, you're going to do it. Because it's a new record you're creating, you don't need the record ID. Object API name is order. Okay. And what are your input fields? You are having account ID.
We have account ID. We have.
You can look it up from your
effective date.
Okay.
I have the status field.
Okay, and you have the price book ID as well.
I have a price book ID, but I also have to make this hidden. Yeah,
you can put in the same class. It's the same base lightning component in both the places, so the attributes and all are going to be the same.
Right.
Okay, so this is done, and you also have a button. The button is right now called an update. Have you named it differently in your code?
I use checkout.
Okay, just rename it to checkout. All right, and so this should do it, right? Let's quickly save it. Now, there is a small change that I plan to make here. So what you're doing here is you're writing the field names directly in the HTML code.
Yes.
And you're doing it like a string. So what if in the future there is a change to the API name, or maybe somebody tries to delete that field? Your code will break. Which is why, I mean, there is no harm if you do it this way, if you're sure that nobody else is going to change the code.
Right.
But in case there is a scope for that and you want to prevent your code from breaking, you actually do something called as referential integrity, and you bind it statically.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to show you how it is done. So quickly jump to the JS file so that the audience can see what I'm pasting. Okay, so now I mentioned that every single thing is imported, right? Same is the case with the fields. So whatever are the fields that you used as a hard-coded string, I'm going to import all of that by using Salesforce/schema, and I'm going to give them a name.
Oh, nice.
Okay, now I have imported these, but how do I use it in the front end? There needs to be relevant properties for those. So for that, I'm going to add those properties for you as well. So I've imported the fields. Okay, I have assigned those fields to different properties, and now I can use these properties in the front end.
Right.
So let me replace that as well. Okay, give me a second there. Okay, jump to the front end, and yep, that's it. A little bit of indentation here. We don't want code to look shabby, so. Okay, so if you see, I haven't changed a lot. Instead of writing account ID in a hard-coded string, I've bound it to a JavaScript property, which is then fetching it from the import. Okay, so now you have the fields, and I also see that there is some additional HTML beautification that you have done by specifying order details. I'll paste that for you. I made you do a lot of work till now. Let me do that.
Yeah.
Okay, and once your fields are done, what you've done is you have also shown the aura iteration,
Yes,
right? Yeah, just copying the aura iteration into your Lightning cart.
It's above the button, so I'll paste it here.
Yes. Now, what did we talk about aura iteration? How do you change it?
We use template for each, right?
Okay.
I'll try to replace it. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, it's fine. I can do it off quickly. So I've specified the template for each. Yeah, the closing tag has to be updated. And again, there is a huge underline, which means
yes,
I haven't given the key
attribute.
Correct. Let me put that key. Or yeah, you can write it as well. Cart item.id. Okay, now the key is done. You can remove the merge field here. And then for button, again, you have a data index and you have an on-click delete.
Yes.
Okay, so in here, I think this is looking pretty good. It's just that there is one more small div that I should add, again, for beautification purposes. Okay, so I think you have shown the Lightning record edit form and you're iterating over all the cart items.
Yes.
Which is good. The next thing we need to do is implement the functionality for checkout.
Yes.
Okay, so for checkout, it's just a button, but in Aura, I see that you have given a success handler.
Yes.
The same success handler can be used here as well. So on load is not required.
Okay.
On success and success handler. Okay, remove the bindings, make the bindings correct. Okay, now what are you doing on success order creation in Aura?
I'm actually creating order items and getting the order ID from the on success function event.
Okay. So your on success is, did you define the function for on success?
Yes. So if I go to my controller,
okay,
on success creation, I have a Aura component which do this stuff and gets the record from the event.
Okay. So here basically you're getting the record ID from the event and then you're making a DML operation.
Yes.
So we can do the same thing here as well. So if you go back to your cart, you need to import the Apex function that you're doing the DML for.
Right.
So why don't you do that?
Sure. So basically this is for create order items.
Okay.
That's a function which I'm using.
Yep.
Which is from Salesforce create order.
Yep. Do that. So you have the create order. Now the way you do DML operations is a little bit different. You don't use it, do it using the wire decorator. You use something called as imperative Apex calls. So for that, again, you need not remember the code. Just go to your function.
So I have to create a function, right?
Yeah, you need to create the success handler.
Okay.
Success handler is created. So now just type in LWC-imperative Apex. And this is going to give you the code. Okay. Replace the method name with the method name that you've imported. And then you'll have to pass in the parameters. You can remove method as well. Method is not needed. Yes, now you need to pass in the parameters, typically which is by means of an object. I can actually do that for you. So this is how you do it. So how did I know that I had to pass these two attributes? If you hover over the create order items, it shows you what parameters this function accepts. So it is done, and you're passing the cart items, which is good. But what are you doing after the checkout is complete? I'm
showing a toast message and clearing the cart's data.
Correct. We can do the same thing. Now to create a toast message again, use our code snippets, lwc-toast. Yes, it's going to give you the entire toast. Do you mind copying the title and the message from your Aura code?
Sure.
Okay, this is done. And for error, you might want to console log that error.
Yes. I'm getting an error.
Okay, just disable ESLint for that one line. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
And you also said you were initializing the carts to empty, which I've done for you.
Okay.
So you can save. Okay, so what all have we done till now? So we have, if you scroll right on the top, we have imported the fields for your Lightning record edit form.
Right.
We have imported a static resource for your image. We have defined an isCartEmpty function for your if condition.
Right.
We are registering for the pub/sub event, and we are handling the pub/sub event by adding it to the array items. And finally, once you click on checkout, we are actually calling a DML function by passing in the required parameters. Right. And we are doing the toast.
Right.
One thing that we still didn't do was that you said there was a default value that you gave to the price book.
Yes, yes.
Right. So that price book code, I'm going to add it for you. It's going to be inside your add to cart handler, because the moment you get a new data, you can initialize the price book value.
Okay.
So with that, it should be done. Is there anything else? There is also a remove to cart, right?
Yes, we have a delete function.
Yeah. Can you create that on-click delete as a function? Okay. And what is the code that you have written in Aura for that?
So in the Aura, I've just got the record index from the event, and just using a splice function of JavaScript to remove it from the list.
That's a JavaScript code. It's going to work.
Yes.
Just copy paste it. And it's this dot cart and event as a parameter. So are we good? Have we done everything else?
Yes, I think looks good to me. All the functions which I have created are there in the LWC.
Okay.
Yes,
can you now drag and drop it into the UI? Let's wait for this deploy source to complete.
Sure.
And yeah, in the meanwhile, just add it to the UI. Let's see how it is working.
I'm very excited for this.
Hopefully it should work. If it works, I'm excited.
Yeah. LWC cart.
Okay, there are some errors that have come. Oh, pub/sub listeners need a current page reference. Okay, we removed that, assuming it was not needed, but yeah, we'll add that back.
Okay.
The pub/sub current page reference, let me do that. And then you remember what we did with page reference, right? We imported page reference and we created a wire for it. And we imported wire.
Right.
Okay.
I'll commit the code. I think it's getting committed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's deploying again. So once it is done,
I'll save it and
yeah, you save it and then go back. It should work. Okay, this seems to be taking a little bit of time. Okay. Oh, it's done. Finally. Oh my God. Okay.
I'll just refresh this.
Hopefully it should work now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Something has come at least. Okay. Let's click add to cart.
Yes.
Okay.
I can see the items.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we have data in this or not.
Just search for Burlington. It should come in.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Search requires at least 2 characters. So yeah. And okay, draft. Checkout. Oh wow, the order got created successfully.
Yes, I can see all the product items.
All right.
And all the
Okay, this is very cool. Okay, there is one small thing that I noticed. So if I click on add to cart, I see that the spacing here is not appropriate.
Yes.
I think we forgot to copy the CSS.
Right, yes.
Right. So can you show me what is the CSS you implemented in Aura for the cart?
Yes. So in my cart, I have two CSS files. Two CSS I have written.
Okay. All right, you can copy this, and in LWC you need to create a new file for CSS. So go to your cart folder and create a new file inside that with the same name. So LWC cart.css.
Okay.
And you can paste this code and remove .this.
Oh, okay.
So this is a plain old CSS file. It doesn't require .this and stuff. You can just use it just like any other CSS. And once this is deployed, I think your code is ready. So how do you feel about this? I think I simplified the number of lines of code that you have written at least.
Yeah, I think it looks so simple. Like I don't have to write so much of code now, and I think we have reduced a lot of lines of code. For even calling for Apex classes, you don't have to write like 10 lines of code. It's just one line. It did it.
All right. So while this deploys, I think we are already a little bit out of time. So I think the audience has fairly established that everything is working the way it is supposed to. Right. The styles will get deployed eventually, which is fine. So now, how do you learn about all of this? So there is a trail on Trailhead that is called Build Lightning Web Components, which is going to teach you a quick start for Lightning Web Components, make you do a project, and then it also has resources for Aura developers. So how do you do all of this, transitioning from Aura to Lightning Web Components? So all of that is present in this trail. The audience can feel free to take a screenshot of this or bookmark this URL once you find it. The URL is actually given to you in the questions panel. Yeah, in the chat. So you can always go to that and bookmark it. So that's done. And we are also coming up with an exciting CodeLive webinar. I hope all of you enjoyed this CodeLive live coding session, where we tried our best to finish it in the time, but of course, code takes time. So we are going to come up with the next one called Build Lightning Web Components Faster with Local Development. So local development is a brand new feature that we are coming out with, which allows you to develop things locally. More about that in the webinar. I don't want to reveal a lot. So Satya and Santanu are going to take it, and the registration link is pasted in the chat window for you guys to go ahead and register for it. So this is a game changer, guys. Please go ahead and register for it. Now let's take in some Q&A. Let's see what we have in store. Most of the questions, by the way, were answered in the chat window itself. Let me see if we have something else. Okay. Why are we not keeping all the product in JavaScript just to reduce the server call? Just a thought. I mean, the JavaScript is going to be dynamic. I mean, for this example, it was a limited number of records that we pulled, but ideally, you would want to get all the records from the server. But in order to reduce the server calls, that is being handled by the wire service. So whatever functions you call through wire service are cacheable, which means not every time a server request is sent. If Salesforce seems appropriate, then I mean, if Salesforce thinks it is appropriate to fetch it from the cache, it is going to fetch it from the cache. If not, it is going to make a server call. So that point is not a significant worry. So somebody explained, somebody asked, can you explain wire parameters again? So wire is a decorator using which you can invoke an Apex method, and it takes in a few parameters that your method is going to accept. So the first parameter of your wire is going to be the adapter ID or the method name, comma. Then you're going to pass an object of all the parameters that are going to go to your Apex method. Then how to get a lightning tag div in JS file to set a value or class, something which we did using Aura ID. Okay, that's a good question. So very similar to what you have as component.find, there is something called as this.template.querySelector. Okay, so you can use that in order to fetch the elements of the tags. The reason we don't have document.getElement by ID and all of that is Lightning Web Components is logger enforced. So you can only access elements from the template, because of which you are going to be using this.template.querySelector or querySelector all. What is the use of key attribute? So the key attribute is going to decide which part is going to get re-rendered. So inside an Aura iteration or a template for each, you're iterating over a set of 100 values, let's say. Now, if the 99th value changes, Salesforce doesn't re-render all of the 100 nodes that you have created. It only refreshes the node of the 99th element. So in order for Salesforce to identify that 99th element inside your iteration, the key attribute is what is used for that. Any other interesting questions? Is LWC a two-way binding? No, LWC is a one-way binding. So whatever you define in JavaScript can be exposed in HTML. If you want to update your JavaScript values, you'll have to use a change handler, like we have used for onKeyUp or onChange. You'll have to do that in order to update the JavaScript values. It is a one-way binding. And I think most of the questions I have answered. You mentioned version control is possible using VS Code with LWC. Can you throw some light on it? So VS Code is also capable of Git plugins. So as a matter of fact, if you look at the VS Code screen that we were sharing till now, or any other VS Code, let me show this. So you'll find a link to the master. So VS Code itself has a lot of plugins which bind Git into all of your code that you can commit using just clicks. You need not even write those commit statements. VS Code has plugins for all of that. As a matter of fact, we are going to commit all of the code that we have written till now into a GitHub repository, the link for which is going to be shared in the chat window right now. So right now that repository is empty, but like in 5 minutes after the webinar, we are going to commit all of the code. So you should be able to look at what all we have done in the webinar later as well. So with that, I think if we have nothing else, you're going to get a survey link. Please fill out the survey if you found our session useful, and you can also leave feedback as to what kind of sessions that you want to see in the future or any other improvements that you have. Both positive and negative feedback is always appreciated. And with that, thank you all for attending, and have a nice day, have a nice week ahead.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Thank you.